What's up guys, Sekapoko here, bringing you another One Piece Treasure Cruise video. For this we'll be going over the rates on Global versus the rates on JP. And I know this is a controversial topic, this is not going to be a JP is so much better video, this is not going to be a Global is so much better video. Please do not take it like that. This is strictly to give you information and then give you my thoughts and opinions on how you should pull on each banner at the end. So overall, I'm just going to be going over first the rates on each of the multi-pulls. So I'll go over the first multi-pull, the third multi-pull, and then the guaranteed rate up legend multi-pull. And then we'll go over the individual rates and silver rates, secret silver rates, and all that stuff in between. And the nice thing about this, so it might help you guys out, is it might help you decide on which version that you like better and which one is better for rates. One of the biggest things here is that you want to cover relevancy, and you don't want to cover the Frankie Sugofest on the global version and the Frankie Sugofest on the Japan version because they are massively different. And if you saw my video on the version 2 Doflamingo Sugofest, you can see that there was a massive difference between the two. So this would help you explain more of a relevancy thing of the, hey, this is the Treasure Mode Croc Sugofest happening right now versus the one that's happening on the global version. So we're going to go into the video and go over those key points, and then you guys will decide which one's better for this Sugofest, in particular the global version Sugofest or the Japan version Sugofest. In this whole video, please no hate in the comment section, please no like Globest meme. You can do our Globest memes and all that stuff too, but do not try to force people to play one version or the other. This is strictly to give you guys the information so that you guys can make your decisions on pulling and know what you're comparing to. Alright guys, so without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into the video. Okay, so the first thing we're going to go over is the Global Sugofest very briefly. And the main thing that we're going to be going over today, since we're going over the rates, is we're going to be going over the part one of the Sugofest versus another part one of the Sugofest. And the nice thing here is I can see that the part one is going to be 10+1. The second pull is going to be guaranteed thatch. On JP, it's similar. On the third multi-pull, it's going to be a guaranteed red. And the 6th multi-pull is going to be guaranteed red. The 9th multi-pull is going to be a guaranteed rate boosted legend. Now, what I'm going to go over here is, in this video, I'm going to go over these guaranteed rate boosts versus the other guaranteed rate boosts. On the Japanese version of One Piece Treasure Cruise for the Treasure Mode Crocodile Sugofest, there are going to be 3 different banners with 3 different sets of rate ups, all legends to be available, etc. And on the multi-pull mechanics, we're going to have all multis for the 3rd, 6th, 9th, and 12th are going to be a guaranteed 4-star or above, that for every single pull that's not one of the 3rd, 6th, 9th, and 12th. On the first multi-pull, it's discounted, so we get a discounted first multi at 30 gems. The second multi-pull is going to be guaranteed Mr. 1, just like, which is the treasure mode unit. It's the worst treasure mode unit, just like in the global version. The worst treasure mode unit being Thatch. The worst treasure mode here is Mr. 1. And the 3rd and 9th multi-pull here is going to be a guaranteed legend. And the 6th and the 12th multi-pull are going to be a guaranteed rate-up legend. Alright guys, so we're going to be going over 2 separate Sugofests. And we're going to be drilling them at the exact same time because we're both on day 1, which is a very rare occurrence. I don't think this has happened ever before. And if it has, then I'm not really sure if it has. But this is going to compare the Japanese version current Treasure Mode Sugofest with Treasure Mode Crocodile versus the Treasure Mode Sugofest with Frankie. And this is Treasure Mode Ace on the global version and Treasure Mode Crocodile on the Japanese version. So we're going to compare the 2 Sugofests as far as rates go. Now, there would be a more accurate comparison to compare the Frankie Sugofest Japan versus global, but it's actually a lot easier nowadays to compare the right now situation versus comparing the in the past situation. Like what happened on JP in the past does not always translate to what happens on global. So comparing the two is helpful, but not really relevant. What's relevant is like what's the rates on the Sugofest right now versus the Sugofest that's happening right now on the other version. So that is the comparison that a lot of people want to see because they want to feel that it does matter. Now, while I'm going over this, I want to be going over the rates in each part. So while I'm going to do this, I'm going to structure it a little differently. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to compare the normal legend pull rates as well as the silver pull rates, the secret silver pull rates. Then compare the guaranteed legend pull, and then finally the guaranteed rate up legend or the guaranteed legend that has a rate up. So comparing the 2 Sugofests, let's go into them very quickly. So going into the Sugofest, we're going to see that the global version has a 3.55% chance to pull a legend, while as the Japanese version is going to have actually a lower chance at 3.517. Now this could be off due to my counting errors, I'm not sure, but they're so close it doesn't really matter. And it really just because it's really difficult to do to math and input those data for do different legend counts. So that's one of the main reasons there. For a non-rated up legend, it is a 55.7% chance on the global version to pull a legend. And that is a non-rated up legend. And on the Japanese version, it is a 55.9% chance. So very close between the two. And if you do pull a legend, it is a 44% chance to pull a rate up and 44% to pull a rate up on both versions. So the total way they break down is in total, it's almost a 2% chance on the global version to get a non-rate up legend, and just a little bit under that for getting a non-rate up legend on the Japanese version. So it's a 1.5% chance to pull a rate up legend, a 2% chance or so to pull a non-rate up legend, which I think is kind of interesting. I like that. I like that they're somewhat similar there. Now, let's go over the silver rates. Now, the first difference between these Sugofest is the one on the global version is an all gold Sugofest. And I believe most of the treasure modes on the global version, if not all the treasure modes on the global version, are an all gold Sugofest. Where on the Japanese version, I don't think we have a lot of those, so that doesn't really happen too often. There is a 40% chance to pull a silver on the Japanese version, where on the global version, there is a 0% chance. Now let's go over the secret silver rates. What these are basically rates that it is to get a silver poster, whether it's on an all gold banner, on a silver banner, whatever. And it's like when you pull a gold poster, and that gold poster is not actually a gold, but it's just an evolved silver. And everybody hates that feeling, and it feels like that feeling happens a lot more on the global version, and it doesn't happen super often on the Japanese version, because when you get a silver on the Japanese version, it's typically a silver, and it happens a lot less. The secret silver rate is much lower. And that is actually true. Looking at this all gold Sugofest, there is a secret silver rate of nearly 9% on the global version. On the Japanese version, it's actually only about 2.728%, which is much lower. And that was an interesting thing for me to see, is like, oh, okay, so when you pull a gold on the global version, it's not all, like, you have almost a 10% chance to get a non-gold. And then on the Japanese version, it's only a 2.7% chance. I'm like, oh, okay, so you don't feel as cucked because you're pulling less fake golds. Got it. Okay, that makes a lot more sense. A lot of people hate fake golds. I would rather pull a silver than get a fake gold, because when you get bait into a fake gold, that hurts. That hurts way more, in my opinion. Okay, so now let's go over the legend rates for a third multi-pull. So this is on the 11th poster when you're guaranteed to get a red. This is going to be the guaranteed red poster. And let's see what those rates are on each version. So one of the first things to note is that the global version right here is going to have a 6% chance to pull the banner unit, which is Frankie, which is amazing. That's a very, very high chance pulling the banner unit. There are a total of 11 rate up units on the Japanese version, but on the global version, there's only 8. So that's why the rate seems so much higher, is because it's a much smaller pool of rate up legends, which is actually very good. I like that a lot, actually. The reason that's so good is because on the final poster, there is a 44% chance on the global version to pull a rate up legend and a 56% chance to pull a non-rate up legend. On the Japanese version, it's about 42% chance for a rate up legend and 58% for a non-rate up legend. Now, again, my math could be off due to counting errors, but those are, by the way, so close it doesn't even matter. With Frankie being at a 6% chance, that's very, very good. Now, I'll notice that Nami and, what's his name? V2 Akainu at 3.5% on the Japanese version, versus the other legends being, the other rate up legends being at 3.8% chance. Those split evenly for every single unit. Now, what's really unfortunate on the global version, you can see here that Frankie and all the other rate up legends are at 6.3%, whereas Judge and Lucy are down rated, which is kind of a shaft. I mean, the two legends you want to pull the most on this banner, if you do not have them, are going to be Judge and Lucy. And that's kind of a shaft. I'm not the biggest fan of that. Whereas when you get shafted on the Japanese version like here, you're going to get a 3.5% chance versus a 3.8% chance versus like it's a 0.3 versus a 3% chance as far as the shaft goes, which I would take any day of the week. That's way better. But there is more of an even split between the units. So you're much more likely to pull one of the other units in the Raid Up Legend badge, as far as on the global version, that's not a Lucy or a Judge. So if you already have Lucy or Judge, that's great for you. If you don't have Lucy and Judge, then you're like, well, this sucks. Now, the other thing to note is that there are much more legends on Japan right now. I think it's like 10 more legends or so on Japan versus on global. So just know there's a difference. There is a difference in the way that the raids look here. And you'll notice that there's like a 1.4% chance versus a 1.58% chance. It's just because of the amount of legends. So overall, my thoughts on this is that I really like the way they did it on the global version for the banner unit, but I'm not a big fan of what they did to Lucy and Judge. That really stings. On the Japanese version, this is normal. I know that I'm not going to be pulling a ton of legends on the Treasure Mode Sugofest, and if I do pull one, then it's going to be out of the select pool, and for me, it doesn't really matter. All right, so now we're gonna go over the 9th multi-pull versus the 6th multi-pull. Now, this is a very interesting pull because on the global version, what they say is that it's gonna be a guaranteed legend that is going to be a rate up. Or on the Japanese version, they just say guaranteed rate up legend. So this is the big comparison between the two versions that a lot of people were disparaging over. And this has not happened on the global version ever, where you get a set pool of legends and you pull and you can only get that set pool of legends. I don't think it happened. I think it happens on like Choose Your Own Sugofest, but beyond that, it doesn't really happen. On the Japanese version, it happens all the time, where you get the select pool of legends. And this is the really interesting part. So to pull Nami or version 2 Aokiji, it's going to be an 8.4% chance versus a 9.2% chance. Then we go into the guaranteed rate up legends, guaranteed legends that have a rate up. It's going to be an 8.7% chance versus an 4.3% chance versus a 1% chance. So you'll notice that there is a 61.5% chance on the global version to pull a rate up legend. There is a 39.5% chance or 38.5% chance to pull a non-rate up legend on the 9th multi. Now, this right here is the difference between a super whale on this game on global versus a super whale on JP. To me, this says it is much better to be a bigger whale on the Japanese version, and it is much worse to be a bigger whale on the global version if you are missing top tier legends, because what they do is have your rates and they completely shaft you. That is super bad. There are a lot of the legends that are on here that are very good, so we'll go with that too. Now, you'll notice that on the Japanese version, there is only a pool of 11 legends, and you can only pull from those. If you want to know what those legends are very quickly, this day, I believe it's going to be Nami, version 2 Akainu, Enel, Sai Legend Robin, Rayleigh, Inarashi, Magellan, Blackbeard, Legend Usopp, Bartolomeo, and Hody Jones. So 7 of those are still very, very useful to this day. And 4 of them are not so much. Like Usoland, no one uses. Barto, no one really uses. Inarashi, no one really uses. I guess people still use Blackbeard. So we'll say 8 of them are still relevant, and 3 of them are not relevant. So that means there is a 27% chance on the Japanese version to pull some unit that's not a legend, that's not super useful. Now on the global version, let's check that out as well. Now Akainu's not really relevant anymore, but he is a rate up legend. So I'm gonna say that Akainu is a unit that is rate up but not really relevant anymore. You can still use it, but he's not really relevant. No one's really hyped if you pull Akainu, right? There are still a bunch of units in the non-rated up legend pool that are very useful. So let's go. We got Doflamingo, Rayleigh, so that's 2. On the global version, what I did was I took all the relevant legends that are at 1%, and it's basically 11 of them. 11 of them are still relevant and are going to be relevant on the Japanese, like as you progress toward the Japanese version's content. 11 in this version. The rest of them are less relevant. So there is approximately a 45% chance versus a 27% chance to pull a unit that is not relevant and useful on the 9th multi-pull versus a 27% chance to pull a unit that is not relevant on the Japanese version. So there's instead of having a good rate and chance to pull on the global version for a unit that you really want on your guaranteed legend rate up pull, there is a much lower chance on that version than on the Japanese version. So what that means to me on the Japanese version is that they really give back to players that whale a little bit every month, every Sugofest, and they don't go super hard. Whereas on the global version, it doesn't matter how hard you whale, you still do not have a great, amazing chance to get what you want. Whereas they do give you a very good amount of awesomeness within like a 3 multi span. So what's really good is for most players on the global version that are doing 1, 2, or 3 multi-pulls on the Sugofest, this is amazing for you on the global version. It's much better than on the Japanese version for this particular Sugofest. On the Japanese version, it's much better to be playing on there if you're doing up to 6 multi-pulls, but on the global version, much less so. So it really just depends on what kind of player you are, and my thoughts and opinions on this is I would rather have this small legend pool with useful units versus a large legend pool of not useful units on a guaranteed legend rate up pool. Now, most of the time when I pull on a Sugofest, I pull for the golds, and I want to make sure I get them. So let's go ahead and go over the golds a little bit. So at the top here, we're going to see the treasure mode characters, and Thatch is at a 1% chance, whereas Marshall D. Teach was at a 0.5% chance, and we have Mr. 1 at 1.5%. We have a 1% chance to pull Jozu and a 0.9% chance to pull Ivankov. Now, if you don't know the differences between the 5 units, I believe Thatch is a 2 times. No, Thatch is like a 1.5, and then Teach is a 2 times point booster. You correct me if I'm wrong. I don't actually know the point boosters on global, but Marshall D. Teach or Blackbeard is the better point booster. And then on the Japanese version, the Ivankov, which is the 0.9% chance, is a 2.25 times booster. The Jozu is a 1.75 times booster, and the Mr. 1 is a 1.5 times booster. I'm not really sure what they are between the two, but you can see that there's a 3% chance or more, 3.5% chance to pull one of the point booster units versus only a 1.5% chance on any given pull to pull a point booster unit. So my thoughts on that is that if you're doing 1 multi and hoping to get a point booster unit, you have a much better chance on the Japanese version to get a point booster versus on the global version. So that part is also interesting to me. Now, if you're trying to be pulling, if you're pulling for the rated up golds on the global version, there is a very decent chance to pull them. There is a 29% chance on the global version to pull one of the rated up golds, which is pretty good. That means that the other 67% or so is going to, or 66% is going to be for everything else. So 66% chance to pull something that's not a rate up in general, and then there is a 30-something% chance to pull a rate up unit. So I mean that's pretty good. That's okay. Better than a JP. And then there's a 21% chance to pull a rate up gold on the Japanese version on any given pull. So definitely a higher chance on the global version than there is on the Japanese version for this all gold Sugofest for getting the golds that you want versus on the Japanese version. So in my thoughts and opinions here is that it's easier to get the golds on global, and it's much harder to get the golds on JP initially, but it's easier to get the treasure mode units on JP, but harder to get the treasure mode units on global. So overall, I don't know which route I would take. But if I'm pulling on a treasure mode Sugo, I'm not pulling for the golds. I'm pulling for the treasure mode unit, right? You want that unit and you want legends. You don't really care about the golds. The golds kind of trickle in. There's no new units really, unless there's like a whole new batch, which only happened once on the Japanese version. It makes way more sense to be pulling, if you're pulling for the treasure mode units, on the Japanese version, but it makes like almost no sense on the global version to pull for the treasure mode units. The rates are just so bad in comparison. So overall, on should you pull or not pull on global and JP and like what the rates are there, on global I would do 2 multis at maximum if you were going to be going for just the gold, and if you're going to do 3 multis, just know that you have a decent chance of getting Frankie and all the other ones. So 3 multis is fine. Beyond 3 multis, I say no on global. On Japan, you can go up to 6 and you're fine. You can even go up to 12 and you're fine because you do have good chances everything else. So you can whale harder in JP if you want to. However, on the global version, I say no, do not go hard. stop at 3, and then split between parts if you need to. Alright guys, well, my name's Sekapoko. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys did enjoy the video, make sure you smack that like button down below, as well as the subscribe button down below, so we get lots of support in the channel, and of course, keep the channel growing. If you guys do want to get notifications on all my videos, make sure you hit the bell notification right next to it, so you guys get notifications every time I drop a video. If you want to check out the last couple videos, they're right over there, and you guys have a great rest of your day. Peace.